I think we've all heard at one point or another somebody say something along the lines of, "Oh, I don't like that, that's too mainstream." And while there's plenty of very valid criticism to go around against all of the hipsters who like to just do everything opposite of whatever is popular, let's try to answer, are there good reasons to actually go against the mainstream culture? So first off, what really is mainstream culture? I mean, obviously you've got your very popular music at the time, whatever's being played on the radio, you've got the very popular and well-loved movies, and then there's whatever style is in fashion at the time. So I mean, there always is some sort of mainstream culture that is constantly evolving, but it's just something that a lot of people just go along with and don't think much of. Well, let me take you back to my teenage years. So back when I was about 12 or 13, I was pretty socially awkward, to say the least. And it's especially prevalent when you're young and growing up and going to school, that whatever is popular, you kind of have to follow the trends if you want to fit in, and you want to be cool, you want to be like all the other kids. But I was one of those that wanted to do the opposite of whatever was cool, you know, do the I don't like anything mainstream kind of thing. And so I've thought a lot about that, like why are so many people just adamant about avoiding whatever is popular? And in my case, the answer was, if you dress the part and you listen to the same music, you're doing everything to try and fit in, you're basically putting all this effort into trying to fit in. You want to put all this work in so that you can get other people to accept you. And I always just thought that that was such a stupid concept. I'm just like, why should I go out of my way to change myself just so that I can be accepted by other people who are also probably being fake themselves? Now that's not to say that everyone who listens to the radio is some fake personality that's just trying to fit in. But I always got the feeling like, you know, if I try to do everything like them, then it's just gonna feel so inauthentic, and why would I try to change myself just to try and fit in? And then of course that leads you to being kind of a self-proclaimed outcast, where you come into this mindset of like, oh, I'm not like them, I'm completely different, and you think that you're like scary to them, but they're just like, we don't really care, we don't really pay much attention to you. But I would say that that's one major reason why people try to avoid mainstream culture, is just because they don't want to appear like they are putting in a lot of effort to try and be accepted by others. But then there are other factors, one of them being that when people pick out what they enjoy, what kind of music they like, what they like to do, how they like to dress, it's not only that they pick those things because they just enjoy those things, it also has to do with they pick what they like because it reflects on them as a person. So a lot of people will see it as, oh, if the only things you like are the things that are spoon-fed to you, you know, if you only watch movies that are mainstream, if you only listen to the music that's in the top 40, if you only dress like what's popular at the time, then a lot of people see that as just they don't have any individuality. They just go along with whatever's trending, they're just kind of the lowest common denominator, they just go along with the flow. Whereas there's a lot of people who also just jump into a counterculture as a way of sort of representing themselves. You know, this is how you get hipsters, which is a term that's been kind of watered down over the years, because originally hipsters were just, I'm gonna do whatever's not popular, but then there were so many hipsters that now hipsters are just as mainstream as the mainstream, so it's kind of just another form of mainstream. But you have people that like something not because they really like it, but because they want to be seen as being cultured for liking something like that. Like for example, you might have seen a lot of people who wear band shirts for bands they don't even listen to. And so people say like, oh, that's a cool shirt, you like that band? And they're like, actually, I don't even know any of their songs. Or you'll have somebody that claims to be really into some sort of slam poetry, or just really obscure indie music that sounds like garbage, but they want to come across as being very unique. And so they're like, oh yeah, this is really good stuff, this really vibes with me. When in reality, they're just trying to look different. But if you actually do enjoy a lot of things that are not very popular, there are kind of a lot of benefits and some downsides to doing that. Okay, here's an example. Let's say you're really into some small name band. Maybe they've got a couple thousand fans around the country, and they happen to go on tour and they show up in your town. So in order to go see them, you know, you might pay $10 to $20, you show up, you get to watch their whole set, and then you probably get to just hang out and talk with them after the show. You know, as a small artist, there's not a lot of competition with a lot of other people, so you don't have to pay any extra, you can just hang out, have the meet and greet with them, get to ask them questions, just do whatever. However, let's say you're a fan of, say, I don't know, Katy Perry. Alright, now you want to hang out and meet Katy Perry, okay. You're going to probably be spending hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to go to a show and get some VIP pass, go backstage just to get like 5 seconds of saying hello and get an autograph, because there's just way too much competition in the fan base. Because I mean, every celebrity is just one person. and one person can only interact with so many people. So if there's somebody you really want to meet, it's a lot easier to meet them if they only have a few hundred fans rather than a few million fans. But it's not only that, if you are into a much more niche fan base, then it becomes a lot more exciting if you happen to run into somebody else who's also in that fan base. Like, for example, I'm wearing a shirt for a band called The Contortionist. Now, if somebody's watching this video and they know of The Contortionist, I get a lot of comments like, oh, cool, nice shirt, I love that band. But if I'm wearing a shirt that says like Pink Floyd on it, then it's more just like a fashion statement. I mean, some people might say, hey, cool, Pink Floyd shirt. But the reality is that it's not all that special if you meet somebody else who also listens to some massive artist. Like, you could have two people who both say they like the Beatles, but they will be completely different people who have almost nothing else in common. But if you have two people who are very into some very obscure little death metal band, then both of those people will probably hit it off really well. Because the more popular something is, you know, the more people that enjoy consuming the media, then the less those people have in common. And since we usually meet people based on our personality, trying to find other people who are pretty similar, you kind of have to build your own personality into what kind of music you like, what kind of movies you like, what kind of hobbies you have, and then sort of make those your personality, so that when you meet somebody else who shares those similar interests, then you hit it off well and then you end up becoming good friends. And since so much mainstream culture is built to just attract the lowest common denominator, there's not a whole lot of connection between all of the people who enjoy a lot of the same stuff. But the fandom of something can also be a detriment to something. Have you ever heard somebody say something along the lines of, oh, I kinda like that, but the fan base drove me away? Now, I've personally been in this boat quite a few times, where you kind of enjoy something, like let's say you enjoy a movie, but then you see the fandom of that movie who are just way too over the top and way too crazy about it, and you're just like, well, I mean, I kind of enjoy this, but I don't really like associating with people like that, and so I'm probably going to be kind of quiet about it. I mean, one example would be like, I really like the Harry Potter movies. I think they're really good movies and I love watching them. But then I see the Harry Potter fan base, and they just seem kind of insane to me, and they just take it way too far, and they're role-playing everything all the time, and I'm just like, alright, I like Harry Potter, but I don't want to call myself a Harry Potter fan. You know what I mean? Or like Rick and Morty. Like, if I had never heard of Rick and Morty before, I'm sure I could pick it up and enjoy parts of it. But after seeing how much the internet has talked about it, and just spurged out over all of it, I'm just like, I don't think I ever want to watch Rick and Morty at this point. I know people who come to me and be like, oh, come on, it's a good show, but I'm like, nah, the fan base drove me away. Like, I can't even enjoy it after seeing so much cringe associated with it. But that's kind of just a big part of fandoms in general, though. You have a lot of people who all like the same thing. It can be hard for that thing to keep a good reputation, because if you have a lot of people who all like the same thing, you kind of see them as a group. And even though they're not an organized group, anytime somebody who's in that fandom does something crazy, then it's automatically going to hurt your view of whatever they are a fandom of. And right now especially, I feel like everyone likes to latch on to a certain group or a certain ideology. They want to feel like they're a part of something. But then you can always have the saying, the fan base drove me away. Like, even when it comes to politics, people might be like, you know, I do like Trump, but his supporters seem a little bit too crazy for me. You know, the fan base drove me away. Or, I really do support all of these liberal causes, but I don't want to associate with all the people who are rioting in the streets. And so it really all just connects itself together in that, whether something is popular or not, do you want to associate with the group of people who also is into that certain thing? I mean, technically you could just stay on your own. You don't have to be a part of a group if you like or dislike something. But of course, whatever you like to do, whatever you enjoy listening to, whatever you enjoy watching, however you dress, that's kind of just what a lot of people use to define themselves. And there's a lot of people who think, why would I want to be like everybody else? I want to be my own person. And then there's other people who just want to play it safe. They're just like, I'm just going to do whatever keeps me popular because I'm too concerned about my social status to deviate away from the norm. You know, I can't really say there's any right or wrong answers. I mean, this is what gives us such a wide diversity of people. But this has been just kind of a long ramble from me to sort of put into words. I wanted to sort of figure out why it is that I dislike things that are popular. I mean, I'm not quite that bad anymore. I mean, if you look at my list of favorite songs, I've got videos on there from anywhere between like 10 views and 2 billion views. So I mean, at this point, I don't really care what's mainstream or not. I just kind of do whatever I find interesting. Which probably is the correct answer, actually. You probably shouldn't be a fake person just to try and fit in with others. But that goes for following Top 40, being a hipster, or anything else.